Hi everyone. Today I want to show you how I made a scripture box. It's a little gift box I made for a friend and it goes and fits inside a matchbox. It's a really fun craft to do. So I hope that you'll enjoy this video. And that's what it looks like. So first we're going to go to the internet and we're going to find the scriptures we want to use so we can copy and paste them into a Word document. Now you can also just type them into a Word document to print out, or you can handwrite them, but I kind of like to print it because my handwriting gets crazy. So I just Googled, some scripture topics that I wanted to use. You can use scriptures of encouragement. It depends on what you're, going to be making the box for. It's also nice to do ones on anxiety and give it to someone. And then when they travel, they have this little matchbox that opens up with scriptures to help calm them down, ease their nerves. I think that's a really fun thing to do. And it's so tiny, it just fits anywhere. So we picked out some scriptures and then I kind of have it up on my screen. If you have it at 100%, you can hold the matchbox literally right by what you're going to print out to make sure that the scriptures will fit. I don't like to measure, so I love eyeballing. So I'm not the most exact person, but I'm just very crafty, artsy, not very mathematical. So that's why I do it this way. But you can see how I can just hold that up. Then what I also like to do is I like to take like a clear piece of plastic. And I always save like packaging from things, garbage can always be used for another purpose. That's probably why I don't throw much away. But I cut out a template of the size of the matchbox. I just held the matchbox right up to the clear piece. And then I cut out the clear plastic piece so that I would have a template and I could just see through the template to put over the wording that I printed in case I didn't eyeball it correctly. And then you can see here, you could just place that clear template over your printed document. And you can draw around it or whatever to cut out the scripture because we're going to be gluing that later to that accordion piece of paper that pulls out from the little matchbox. So I find this helps me a little bit. Again, I just eyeball it. So after you kind of draw around there and get those sorted out, which scriptures you really are going to use, because it's going to depend on how many you can fit in the box as well. Keep that in mind. So then I cut them out, and you're going to save that other piece of paper here because you're going to glue that. There's 2 pages here. So you're going to glue that so that it's stronger. And that's the part we're going to cut using the template as a guide to make the accordion strip where the scriptures get glued onto. So that's what you'll see here. I've glued it after doubling it, and now I've cut it and folded it to where I know, you have to test it, that it fits into the matchbox, and then I'll be able to pull it out like I did in the finished product that you saw. And then I began to just glue the scriptures that I chose to each of those little pieces. And between there, I also may glue some of the little pretty borders that I cut out from this page so that it makes it not just all white and sterile looking on that scripture accordion piece that folds out. You can see here I just grabbed some scrapbook sheet that I had a long, long time ago when I was scrapbooking. I bought these, little books that contain all these different variations of scrapbook paper. And I have to tell you, I use them all the time in all sorts of crafts and decor. So it's really nice to use them for other purposes and it's not going to waste. I don't need to print and waste ink for this necessarily because I already have paper that's pretty. And this particular one, has little borders to cut out. I'm probably going to take those little pieces there and insert them into that white piece like I was saying to you before. So I'm just cutting them out, and then I'll start, sizing them up, and then we'll be gluing them onto the matchbox. And I just use, the regular stick glue for this craft. You may prefer to use a different glue, but I just use the stick glue because it seems to work. And then I typically will take a packing tape and put across all of it when I'm done with the finished box to make it a little bit more durable and a little bit more less susceptible to getting water on it. I've found that if I use like Mod Podge or something with paper, I don't do very well. I must use too much because it gets all wrinkled or warped. Certainly, if you have a glue suggestion for this paper craft, putting paper on a matchbox itself, please share it with me because I would love to know. And I certainly need improvement in my crafting, I'm sure. I love getting ideas. I love getting inspired. But I also like to rely on my own thoughts and processes to come up with ideas on my own. I don't always want to look up DIYs for everything. Sometimes I just want to lean on my brain, make it work a little bit to figure out something on my own. And I feel like a much more sense of accomplishment on crafting when I do that. I don't know if you're that way or not, but I like to use DIYs. Sometimes I go by what they say, but sometimes I just sit there with materials and say, no, I can figure this out myself. And I think both ways are very healthy for you. And I think watching DIY videos will inspire you to do things that are even different than the video. You can watch someone make a greeting card and go, oh, I could make a matchbox out of that. That's probably where I got my idea. But when you're doing paper like this, it depends on how thick it is. So because it's still quite bold print on the matchbox, I went ahead and covered this with plain white paper first before I started to put the decorated paper there on top. It's funny, as I'm watching myself in this video, my hands remind me so much of my dad and my mom's hands and my sister's hands and even my brother's. It's funny when you look at something in a different light, it reminds you of people that you love or people that you love that have already passed. And you just kind of remember what it was like to watch them making things with their hands. My dad was very crafty. He was a carpenter. My brother's a builder. My sister's both very crafty, very talented. And of course my mom, she made everything with her hands. So it's just funny when you watch a video of your own hands, how you can see different parts of your family in them, and it brings back really nice memories of your family. And I think that's really nice. We grew up, everybody crafted. We were all into making all sorts of things. Maybe it's because there wasn't as much to do. We didn't have internet or phones really. But you can see here, I'm just using those cute little borders to put on the side of the matchbox. I like to cover it up. I sometimes decorate both the back and front, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I put a little tiny gem on the side to make it look like a drawer for someone to grab on to pull out. But I think with this one, I'm just going to add a little butterfly bead on top after I'm done to give it a little bit more dimension on the top. Yeah, so I think this comes out quite nice. I make a lot of matchbox crafts. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, you'll see that I like to do a lot of things with tiny things. I like to make miniature things, and matchboxes allow me to do that. And I like to use them instead of cards. I think it's kind of nice because it's like a little to-go memento to give someone. So sometimes I will make this instead of giving someone a card. And it's important to share things that you put thought into. And I think it's a great idea for a way to share scriptures with someone as well. Of course, you can put like jokes in there if you'd like to do that. You know, it's completely your choice. It's a very good craft to add any sort of variation to, of course. And I do want to thank you for joining me to watch this video. I'm grateful to God that I'm allowed to do crafts and I'm allowed to share those crafts with others. And I hope that in some way it brings you joy into your life. I'm going to apologize ahead because when I go to show you the finished project, I'm afraid that the words are blurry when I show you the scripture part, when I pull it out. So that was kind of silly. But anyway, I'm just covering the box. And then I'm almost done covering it. And now we're going to go ahead and make sure that we can pull that accordion piece out. So I just add a little sticky tab. You know, the ones that mark parts in your book. I have a Dollar Tree set that I purchased to help, and I just take one for each side and glue them together. And then I'm going to fold that back so that once it's in the box, you know, it's not all crinkled. And then as you pull the box open, that little pull tab will be there to help you get the things out of the box. And make sure as you're making this, you're testing it along the way. Because as you start to glue things, sometimes they get crooked on you, or you can just retrim it to make sure it fits. And I think as you do those type of things along the way, you'll get less frustrated at the end that it may not fit in there or something. So you can see here how that pull tab is going to help. Now I'm going to take the back part or the very interior of the matchbox, and I'm going to put a piece of the decorated paper so that the inside doesn't look so generic. And I just cut another piece of that same stationery or scrapbook page to, you know, hide the back of it. I think I had to trim it a little bit smaller than what I expected because, again, I don't measure. I see videos of people measuring all the time for tiny projects, big projects. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I do measure sometimes, don't get me wrong, okay? But it does get me in trouble, so it's just how I'm made. This is just how God made me. I'm not completely exact about certain things. I'm just kind of more artsy and go with the flow. It can get me into trouble on projects, but I usually find my way out. So I hope that you don't get into trouble because I don't measure. But here we go. Now we've got it all fixed, and it's folded back in there. We're sliding it back into the original box. And there we have our little finished scripture box. And you just pull it right out there. And it goes back and forth nicely. I added that little bead on top. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. I hope you'll be joining me in the future. I'm going to try to make a lot more videos. So have a great day. And thank you so much. Please take care.